Gotta see it connect over here. I put all the things. Okay, it's going. It's doing it. Yes, perfect. All right, surprise. Hey, you guys. It's scan week for me, so I apologize for those of you coming in live wondering like where did this live video come from? It's been in the works for like a month, and yeah, there just was a negligence on my part in making sure that it was properly scheduled ahead of time, so you guys knew about it. But hi, I'm your host Danae Peterson from the I Believe podcast, and surprise, it's Monday, and I have with us actually a pioneer in ocular oncology, and I'm so glad to have Dr. David Ancona from Mexico with us today. So if you guys are coming in live and you're listening to this video, which is now officially live on Facebook, my bad. It's now officially live on Facebook. Hi guys. I'm going to recap what I just said. We are doing a live video. Surprise. This is Dr. David Ancona. He is from Mexico, and he founded the Eye Cancer Institute. I'm going to probably botch that. It's the Eye Cancer Institute in Mexico. They are a pioneer Mexico eye clinic for ocular oncology, specifically treating ocular melanoma. So we're thrilled to have him with us here today. If you guys are coming in live, say hi, tell us where you're from, and if you guys have ever heard of Dr. Ancona, please, tell us how you heard about him. We're trying to get the word out about Mexico's eye clinic and make sure that our patients all around the world, especially in South America, know that they have accessible care for ocular melanoma. So thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Danae. It's a pleasure.
Yeah. So, Dr. Ancona, can you just talk to me a little bit about your history with medicine? What drew you to become a doctor in the first place?
Wow, so it's been a while now. But I think the thing that inspired me the most has to be my grandfather. He was a pretty well-known doctor in Yucatan. To whoever has been ever to Cancun, it's like 2 to 3 hours away. Southern Mexico, it's a beautiful place to vacation. And he really what it truly means to be a doctor, which is help really expand his knowledge on how to truly help the ailments that he had and what was according to general practitioner's career, really his way through life and really to do that, which was helping patients see.
Oh, that's amazing. And Dr. Ancona, just a heads up, you're totally fine. The internet can improve, and it will still continue to record for us. If for some reason we get like kicked off, I'm going to have you just join back in, and it'll be fine. But just giving you a heads up that the studio is not currently recording your video. It is still recording your audio though. So we're dealing with fun technology things. So if it turns out that this isn't going to work as well live, then we can actually pull the live, and we can just surprise our audience later. So, while
Okay.
I've got you here though, so can you talk to me, just tell me, how did you get connected with ocular melanoma and kind of the community of doctors? I know you've mentioned a few of kind of the rising physicians in the field that you know. How did you connect with them and start going to school with them?
Yeah, so the first time I got into contact with really getting to know ocular oncology has to be the residency in my first years. Um, it really wasn't a straight path. It really took some bending to get me to where I am now. But I I do recall one of the first patients I saw with a surface tumor. It was he was a young man, and I think that's the moment really frustrated because after getting to a proper diagnosis, he was unfortunately HIV positive, and he had to be, had a full workup done. And and I trained at an ophthalmic hospital, so we didn't have that service there, right? So I did him. He had economic problems, and I did him a couple options to go visit, an oncologist to check out if he had metastasis and whatnot. And unfortunately, I learned later that he hadn't truly gone anywhere, not even to get proper treatment for his first cancer, right? So that really struck to me because there was a huge problem that really had to be interpreted from that, which was that there wasn't really a clear path for patients with that condition. Got to me, that same experience happened to me once and over again through my residency, and I felt that we were not doing enough for patients that were, were having this condition. So um, to this day, in the same hospital, which is one of the largest hospitals in ophthalmology in Mexico City, where I trained, still doesn't have like a proper ocular oncology service that can probably benefit a lot of people. So that was my first contact with ocular oncology, and how it really did give me a purpose to what I do. And after that, I went on with life. I did retina surgery, the typical things when ophthalmologists would do, and diabetic patients, and retinal detachments and all those things. And I was ready to graduate, and I really had an offer in a very large hospital in Mexico City, and I really had everything going for myself, truly. And I ended up going to a conference in my last month of retina fellowship, and Dr. Jerry and Carol Shields, truly pioneers in the world of ocular oncology. I got to spoke them one-on-one, which is pretty impossible if you've ever been to a conference in ophthalmology. They're always surrounded by people. And when I went to buy their atlases, their books, they were standing there, and for some reasons they were by themselves. So I really got my 15 minutes of really chatting with them and getting to get a first-hand experience. And it was truly great, and that really changed that little chit chat really changed my experience of what I could do, right? What was in the possibility of what was in my hands. And Dr. Jerry was actually the one who told me, "Hey, have you ever considered, pursuing an ocular oncology career?" And I was like, "Let me think about it. I
Like,
get
hold on,
back
I
to
thought
you
I was set.
in maybe a couple of days." Yeah, let me
Goodness.
rearrange little things here and there. And it didn't take long. By that night, actually, I had already submitted my CV, and it really was pretty fast forward from there. And I thankfully got accepted to the program I wanted, which was Wheels Eye, and I got to experience what it was like to receive 200 new patients every week with ocular oncology conditions. I really got myself pretty soaked with all these cases that you seldomly see when you do general ophthalmology. So it was there that I really got to prove myself, because it was challenging, that I really have to go out of my way to not only become an ophthalmologist, but also to become of a more round-up person, get in contact with the ailments, the emotional aspect of being an oncologist, and think more of myself as a surgical oncologist, more like an ophthalmologist. Over there, I had great friends, my co-fellows, who are now at the top of their field, on the top of these great services at like Dr. Davin at the Mayo Clinic, Dr. Basil Williams at Bascom Palmer, and to me, it was an experience I really had to make the most out of, because I really knew where I was standing. And not only am there, but actually I say I have to take the hard path of really going back, to where I came from, and really trying to see the perspective how it truly was once that I saw how it could be, right?
No, that's amazing. And it's like you said, it's pretty incredible that you were able to like have that one-on-one time at this conference. I'm assuming a pretty big conference, and talk to Dr. Shields and Dr. Shields. So that's incredible. So you finished your studying, your residency, all of the schooling that you needed to do. You did some extra training, obviously, to get into the ocular oncology field, and then you got back to Mexico. So what kind of drove the inception of the Eye Cancer Institute that you founded?
Yeah, so the Eye Cancer Institute idea was born while while I was in the middle of fellowship, and it was again something that I was driven to, from the situation, more than something that really came from my mind. I was there, and friends of mine and ex-professors really started texting me about these tough cases they had in ocular oncology when I was still in the US, right? Like, hey, can you this into Dr. Shields, and
Can you
and
make
I
sure this is priority somewhere?
yeah, and I was like, like these people are really asking for help because in their practices they're suffering from things that they are not, they're field, but this really goes out the way of of really truly trying to help people. So, and I was like, you know what, I cannot just be comfortable and maybe search for a position, a hospital that has everything. I have to be true to myself and to the situation, and really try to pursue something that is outside my what is already there, right? Because it was just a proof of that. So that's when I decided I wanted to go back. Actually, you know there was some chats there here and there about possibly staying in the US, but and that would have been the easy path for me possibly, but um, I really wanted to make a change here in Mexico, and really trying to establish something that would really help out, my peers and patients alike. So that's when Eye Cancer Institute Mexico really flourished, and the idea of, having friends who could help me out, starting this from scratch and dealing with all the obstacles that I didn't even scratch the surface of what I was about to encounter in the first years I was back here, trying to commit 100% to ocular oncologist, because I have to say, in spite that I still do some retina cases, I'm more than 80% of my patients are ocular oncology. So, and it has been quite a path.
No, I believe it. So how long ago was the Eye Cancer Institute started? Like roughly how many years?
So from 2018, I was
Okay.
already here, and it was gestated in 2019 from one specific patient with retinoblastoma who needed intraarterial chemotherapy, which wasn't a procedure you could find here with all the secure measures. So putting a team together that right now sums up to 24 specialists really started with a few of friends that really wanted to do something about these patients. And it started in 2019 on December. And from there on, it has been, a construction of many, many hands. And that has landed in our own physical clinic that works along with big hospitals and institutions that really want to a place that.
Oh, that's amazing. I love it. I love that you guys saw like a need and instead of, I mean, not that we love that people go to see the Shields in Pennsylvania. We love that they are renowned around the world, but it's really far. It's really far for some patients to come all the way around the world. And so like what a gift that you were able to train with them and that you were able to learn and study alongside them and alongside so many of the other ocular oncologists who are, newer in the field. Because the world does need more ocular oncologists. Like the Shields are not immortal; they're not going to be here forever. And so I'm just so grateful that you were able to train with them and that they are such good teachers. So you guys started this, I guess, really kind of officially, December 2019. So it's been coming up on what, 4 years now? Coming up on 4 years this year. And so how many patients in the ocular oncology field? I'm gonna lump it all in with all ocular oncology because I know that eye cancer is the more common, like ocular melanoma is the most common eye cancer, but it's still very rare. How many patients a week would you say you probably see now, kind of as you guys have built up momentum?
So it has to be around a week, 5 new patients every week, which in a lot for 4 years. I mean, we're nowhere close to 200 patients we should receive, but obviously they have like 40 years on. So I feel pretty blessed of being able to help as many. And it is not about quantity. I think it's more about the quality we give to each patient. So we truly work to make things more optimal. We do receive people that come from other states within Mexico, and we have received patients as far as from Brazil, Dominican Republic, and places that are Central America that might not have everything that there is. So yeah, and just to touch a little bit on what you said about Dr. Shields, they truly, their legacy is gonna outlive them for sure. I think their impact has been so great that really inspires a lot of people that like me that who want to pursue a career in ocular oncology. And I feel nothing but grateful for both of them. I feel very truly honored to have been one of fellows, and it really has opened doors for me, and that I have their backup of, if something comes up that I feel I need more help, that I have, that they could help me out. So that I would have to say, because none of this would be possible if they hadn't once started what right now is like the biggest um option, the largest eye cancer clinic probably in the world. And like you said, unfortunately, that's not possible for a lot of patients. If you try to figure out with the numbers we have right now, which is not the true percentage, but to the number of Mexican patients that they see at Will's Eye, they have to be the smallest percentage. Like most patients end up having no treatment at all prior, because it costs. And like I do tell patients, I think oncology is more about thinking of it as a marathon, more like 100K, like the 10K. So it's not about making the psychiatry, it's just what comes out. So, and it do send once in a while patients that were treated there for me to keep on following up them, because it makes things easier, and things are and the effect is gonna last in the end, more than getting yourself into a debt that you won't be able to pay through months and months and months of going back and forth or probably living there. So reality is that we have to have more places like this close to home, where we feel that that we are close to our friends, to our work, and to really get ourselves treated.
No, that's such a good point. And I'm so glad you guys have been able to continue that camaraderie and that companionship, and kind of like what you said, across your fellowship, across your residency, like in your schooling, you've met so many of the people who currently work in ocular oncology, so you have connections, you talk to these people on a regular basis, and that's, I mean, that alone, I think just that makes for such a huge benefit for the patients, because they're not just getting one doctor's opinion, they're potentially getting multiple doctors, like clear up to the Shields, because you might be checking in and being like, I don't know what to do, like what's the best approach here, what should I do, like do you agree, and I think that's what makes for the best medicine, right? Is just being able to ask those questions and to check in and be willing to have your ideas contested or bettered by each other.
And those different point of views, right? And that person could have read that particular article, which was in the middle of nowhere to be found, and could really have the answer. And I think that collaboration, ocular oncology is a pioneer in collaboration in ophthalmology, I think, and in many other specialties. And that, to us, that's our normal, to collaborate with a lot of people from our same specialty and other specialties, and try to work together towards one goal. And what I found has been great is that I do my peers and my teachers and friends, and that still is free of charge, for patients, because as long as I feel that I'm 100% comfortable with what I'm gonna provide as care, I think that really is the valuable part of being able to provide this to many patients.
No, that makes total sense. So let's talk a little bit about the treatments that you offer at the Eye Cancer Institute. And do you mind just sharing, I guess, specific location, of where you are in Mexico, where patients who are looking for treatment in the Southern American, Central America, Mexican area? So I guess let's talk location first, and then let's talk what treatments do you guys offer.
For sure. So we are currently present in 2 cities with the full range of treatment options, and they're the second and third largest cities in Mexico, so they're very accessible. We have international flights from all over. We receive the flights, I mean, come from everywhere. There's there's to Colombia, to everywhere, every day. And I think being very connected is part of what we're truly searching for. So we are in Monterrey, Mexico, which is 1 hour away from the southern border of Texas. So people from the south of Texas sometimes find us as an option. And the other is Guadalajara, Mexico, which is in the western part. And it's a beautiful city with amazing, food, culture, art, and climate. Really, the climate, and it's really close to the beach. So people who might want to relax after treatment, that's an option too. And I'm happy to say that we have absolutely every treatment available right now, except for proton beam, which, as you know, is not the standard of care. But everything that's a first option of treatment, we do have. Um, I have to say that brachytherapy is very scarce because of what it needs, to have an operating brachytherapy center, and that is on a specific options. But as you know, melanoma and other treatments favored, and specifically after the pandemic, and very scarce of radiosurgery options, which we do every single week now. So aside from that, we're the clinic that has a running IAC, intraarterial chemotherapy program for retinoblastoma, that really keeps on to give out the most secure treatment ever. And that was thanks to a lot of legal aspects of imports, of collaborations directly to Switzerland, to France, to get the best catheters at the best prices. Unfortunately, and it really embarrasses me to say that unfortunately the reality in Mexico is that what you see maybe at the pharmacy might not exactly be what you're taking. So we really truly have, and we have had scandals in which they were giving other treatments, the ones that they were giving. So we truly take to pride that we take a lot of security towards what we are giving patients, and we work with laboratories, right from the right up front. We don't have intermediaries for that matter. So and that's just to give what must be basic, which is security. And I think it's really pivotal.
Yeah, exactly. So you mentioned brachytherapy, and so you said that you do or you guys do not use brachytherapy in your clinic. So I guess I'm thinking specifically for like ocular melanoma, which is obviously like that's what
So we do.
that's what we cover. And I know you see more than just ocular melanoma patients.
Yeah, so we do a lot of situations we cannot control, such as imports. We have from Germany, and as you know, and specifically post-pandemic, things have not been swiftly with import. So it just takes a couple of weeks. Fortunately, the tendency is towards treating smaller and smaller tumors with radiosurgery, which we find it's a great option, and that we have gathered a great amount of experience about precise fullness, specifically for tumors that are small and in difficult locations. We have treated tumors in the iris, in the ciliary body, but we do have brachytherapy. We actually treated, I myself did a surgery on the smallest child that has been treated with brachytherapy here in Mexico, which was less than a year old. And the team that was for a medullary epithelioma, but before that was, the only option was enucleation. So thankfully, a year and a half after, everything actually doing great. And, we're working, as you know, towards, improving his eyesight and dealing with glaucoma and everything that is proper of the tumor and the treatment. But yeah, so we do have brachytherapy. The answer would be yes. So we look at other options that are more available and that are excellent. As you know, the efficacy of both of them are 98%, which is the same. There's no, there's not one above the other. And what it's the secondary effects are what makes the difference. However, as we read over and over again in scientific articles, the treatment that is readily available is
No, that's so true.
also in the US and Europe and everywhere.
No, that's such a good point. Is that, you know, regardless of what maybe could be the best option, if the treatment that is the most available is A, and you know, say you wanted B, but treatment A is the only one, like, then treatment A is the best one. So that's so good. Do you also see patients? I mean, you mentioned enucleation. So do you, I mean, I just know there are far too many patients who end up, you know, with not a smaller tumor. They have a larger tumor or a tumor in a more difficult location to treat, and they end up kind of on the path for enucleation or, you know, needing enucleation. So do you also do those surgeries, or do you have other surgeons that you refer to?
No, so part of the 24 specialists in our institute is working together in the less possible surgeries possible, you know? And, you know, the shortest and the most efficacious as possible. And normally for enucleations, I do have somebody from the oculoplastics team with us, just so that the rehabilitation is in mind right from the beginning. And that really sets out a goal, you know, and that really helps out in minimizing secondary effects that possibly later will require 2 or 3 surgeries down the road. Working together, I think it's what and you know, and even thinking about the that would come. The impact has been so that we do receive patients that were treated as you know, reconstructed either from heavy prosthesis, poorly performed enucleations or excentrations. So we take pride in really working as a team whenever it's needed.
No, I love that. That's so good. And I feel like that's really like, I feel like that's kind of a novel way to think about it. Like that if you're going to be enucleating someone's eye, you're going to make sure, like, even if you're the one doing the surgery, that you've got oculoplastics in there to make sure that they're like all in agreement of how things are being done so that the patient has the best outcome moving forward. So, what are some of the limitations that you guys face? I know that you're still kind of in that younger phase of your clinic, and you mentioned a little bit of the shipping delays and kind of the accessibility of some of the tools and the medicines that you guys use. But are there any other, you know, specific limitations you guys face at your clinic in treating patients, specifically with ocular melanoma or other rare?
Yeah, so I think the biggest or toughest obstacle of them all is, you know, changing the paradigm. The paradigm used to be done, and since they for some or worked to be able to change the person have been doing that up to now, you know. So and there's always a resistance, understandably, to things that are new, and maybe change. Hopefully, the newer generations have more of that in hand. But it is, you know, people that have to deal with these treatments that are a little bit subject to change in you know in you know using this way of modern. So the the first obstacle that and to have to really construct a reputation of really doing things the proper way, toughest, and getting there. So I it's not a complaint, but it's something that we do every single at conferences, at talks, you know, podcasts like this one, to be able to get the word out there that we're doing this, you know, with people that are pioneers in their field. So the other obstacle that we have is the availability of, you know, what it means to be really an option for patients and not stand on our high ground of, you know, this is what we're great and we do this and we don't help anybody because we're so expensive, right? So the second obstacle is really bringing those prices fairly down, you know, trying to work with as many all the opportunities like donations and stuff from organizations, stuff which is government, with other private institutions, trying to make bonds with all these places. So I'd say that takes 75% of my time, of what it means to really build an institute from scratch.
No, I feel like that's such a good, good thing to point out is, the like you said, changing the paradigm and changing the mindset of the people who have been practicing before and who kind of thought this was the only thing they could do, to now showing them there's possibility and there's all of these opportunities of what we can do. We just need to be willing to try it, and we have to learn and continue to grow. But then also dealing with the politics of running the whole institute and the government and any kind of logistical things you come up against.
And I just have to say that it's doing so in a very respectful manner, because truly is that these people have been pioneers. I have learned a lot from people that do maybe a little bit outdated ocular oncology, and because they are very grounded to what really is what helps people, right? So I have to relearn what is the real world in the scenario and in the context that I'm really practicing medicine, and trying to fuse with what really would work. So I have to give credit to those people that have practiced oncology despite their liking. And understandably, that has created some, doubt be possible to establish this modern option of treatment. So I just wanted to point that out, because I don't want to be heard as the old ones. But so
Oh no, for sure.
Yeah, and yeah.
Well, it's like it's such a tricky balance, right? Because without say the 5, 10, 15 doctors that came before you, you wouldn't be here. Like you needed them, as a path to where you are now. And then and I think it's it's fair to say that in the world of ocular oncology, like all of the doctors need each other, right? Like you need each other, whether you're 2 years into your program and just learning about all ocular oncology, or you've been doing this for 40, 50 years. I think there's always that learning and growing from each other and just in collaboration. So I just admire your ability and your desire to collaborate in that kind of a manner. So just lastly, as we kind of close and wind up for the day, do you want to talk about like what are some of the goals of your clinic moving forward? Kind of the big things you're excited about, the dreams you have for 5, 10, 15 years into the future.
Oh yeah, so just to speak about a couple of them that are really at the upfront of what we see ourselves in the next 5 to 10 years, is just being a very patient-centered institute that really cares about human beings. Unfortunately, I had experienced a medicine that it's really number oriented. Like put output. This is like you can treat. That's it, and it doesn't give it a forum just to hear what concerns the actual patient, and their family. Sometimes the least they care about is the actual cancer, but more about what goes around and the problems that they even had before that really truly make the most out of their worries. So I have committed the whole team to build a practice that is patient-centered psychologically, and try to break the taboo of incorporating mental health into cancer, because if you have people that want to do bypass surgery, people that want to get like extreme makeovers in plastic surgery, go through psychologic screening, why wouldn't a person that is leading life and death and leading with sight loss, that wouldn't need a hand? So it is a great taboo, and it is a great obstacle just to be sensible enough not to tell somebody, because you're not telling them that they're crazy, and that's the first thing they think. That we're really trying to help out what we think has to be the 50% of their concern, right? And
Well, and I
that's,
think that's such an important aspect. Like, I mean, like you said, like you can't go through something like this diagnosis as a patient. I mean, speaking firsthand, like you cannot go through something like this and not have it affect you mentally and emotionally. And obviously, it affects you physically because you lose some level of sight, whether it's small or big or all of it. Um, so, I mean, the effects of that. I mean, I agree. Like, why would psychological support be something you go through for cosmetic voluntary surgery versus cancer surgeries, and how can we make that a focus? And I just admire you guys for making that a like foundational principle of your practice, because I think that too often it gets kind of laid aside at the beginning as the practice builds, and then they come back to it and they're like, oh wait, we forgot, we've got to focus on mental health, we've got to support the patients. And by then it just becomes harder to like implement, I think, in retrospect, than it is to implement from the beginning. So I think that's amazing that you guys are focusing there.
yes. And on that same line is optimizing the resources, because truth limitations and what we want the patient to do absolutely. Sometimes you get into the situation where you have to choose even, so you really have to be very cost concerned. And the other way we're trying to look for is really truly looking at those treatment algorithms, but like with a real world, and really decide what, to our opinion, the best option for care, and to a very customized, if you can help other international patients, that would be amazing. But we call it medicine. So it's more to nationalize it in a way that, as we know, our culture, and it's more about getting what people really are concerned about. Often you would find that one of the questions that I ask is, what is, like, not melanoma patients concern, it's what is your biggest concern. And often I found it's a different answer for everybody. Sometimes
Yeah.
I want to get better fast because I will have to take care of my mother, or maybe I want to do different things, and listening, and that it, to and work towards maybe helping out them. Maybe most of the times, well, not most of the times, but sometimes, the eye cancer is the least of their worries. So it's more about thinking of us as potential patients, and having our, I recently I talked about that, who was an excellent doctor, and he unfortunately passed away because of cancer. So that I would think that in the end, I would think everything we do, we think about what if we were the patients, and I wouldn't want to go through something as tough as an eye cancer by myself, So I think it's very important that we should land that, as one of the goals, or the central goals in our institute.
Oh, I love that. And I think that's so important. Um, and I mean, I can already tell like that you have the type of persona, I guess, that I think most patients with this type of eye cancer would respond well to and just feel supported by. So I admire that about you. Thank you so much. Well, if patients want to connect with you guys on social media, if they want to be able to find you, find your eye clinic, or refer a friend who they heard maybe is dealing with ocular melanoma in their area, where can they find the Eye Cancer Institute in Mexico on social media, or yourself?
Yeah, so we have icancerinstitute.com, and it is replicated through all the social media. So if you trying to find at Eye Cancer Institute, you'd be able to find most of our social media accounts. And mine, as a doctor, is Ancona Ocular. So that would be ANCONAOCULAR, and that's where I am more in touch with colleagues and patients that maybe some have quick questions, and I have interviewed patients from different places that have some type of very pinpoint concerns. about care. Be happy to stay in touch with whomever might need it, and if if we could be an option for patients that are looking for possibly less expensive, close to home options, we would be happy to help.
I love that. Well, I will make sure that those are included in the show notes. And I just want to thank you again for your time today and for being here. And for our live audience, anyone who's listening, if you guys have a chance, share this video from Facebook or from YouTube. And we will see you guys next time.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.